Political presentation. Graham Jacobs is with us. Graham, you've been with us from the beginning of this epically interesting, not general election campaign. You saw particularly the first leaders' debate between Sunak and Starmer. Last night, I thought it was much more passionate, certainly on Sunak's part, when you're 20 points behind. If he almost threw the kitchen sink at him. But did he win, or did he put people off because he was too aggressive?
Well, there was certainly no legacy of bonhomie from the first debate. It was all brutality from the word go. It was like watching two actuaries in expensive suits in a cage fight. But also, this time, instead of the moderator having a sort of school marmy, settle down boys attitude, she was like a referee in some form of combat. She let them go at each other.
I thought
and I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Because actually seeing them arguing was a good thing. But of course, at this stage of this quite long campaign, you can't persuade people anymore with facts. You can't move their minds. But I believe you can still move their hearts. And actually, at this stage, the election boils down to this. It's a battle to see which of the presidential candidates is the least dislikable. And that's a battle that maybe Keir Starmer hasn't definitely won, but it is a battle that Rishi Sunak has definitely lost.
Because do you think he became over as dislikable last night because he kept interrupting?
Well, he clearly had been psyched up by his team to go for it, to go for it, to go for it.
Graham, I think we've just lost your mic a moment. We're just going to try and address that. So
we'll carry on talking.
We'll carry on talking about this. The thing that I was sort of considering, especially having been at those Tricker Wars at the on Tuesday, was Nigel Farage is cutting through with the public.
Of course. And
why is that? Partly because he doesn't play being a politician. He has much less to lose, you might say. And I was going to say, I think we've got you back. What does Nigel do that the other two don't, in terms of presentation?
He treats things like a cabaret as opposed to a political debate. He prepares effectively, he selects his material, then edits it, and I think he also rehearses. He treats it like an adrenalised episode as opposed to something where, in fact, people are essentially reading out pre-prepared lines.
Isn't that just talking from the heart, though? Isn't that the difference? Is it that Nigel's not necessarily rehearsed? He just believes what he's saying.
Or does he make it look like he's talking from the heart?
I think that he rehearses it so well and so professionally that it looks unrehearsed. And indeed, that was epitomised by the opening line of his closing speech at the beginning of the Seven Pygmies debate, where he said, unlike the other people on stage, I don't need an autocue because I believe what I'm saying. But that didn't mean he hadn't prepared it. It meant he'd learnt it and internalised it.
But it also doesn't mean he doesn't believe it. It means that he might be telling the truth.
Yes, he may well be. And that level of rehearsal enhances the truth rather than gets in the way of it.
So Sunak's people clearly did say, you've got nothing to lose, you're 20 points behind. One poll suggesting yesterday the Tories could come third behind the Lib Dems, God help us. So throw everything at it. Was that the wrong strategy in your view?
Throw nearly everything at it, but keep control would have been my advice. He was short, sharp, starting to use shorter sentences than he'd used before in the previous debate. He would say it, then he'd support it, but again, yet again, he forgot to shut it. And when he goes on and on and on, when he's made the point and then rephrases the point and then says it for a third time, he becomes more dislikable by the second. So that's his own stuff. Now, the interruptions, to a certain extent, did work for him, in the sense that clearly it put off Keir Starmer. He was still ruffled by them. And also, he managed to expose Starmer's weaknesses, especially in relation to immigration and also tax. The vagueness was exposed by the interruptions. But once the interruptions go so far, he becomes more and more dislikable.
For people who didn't see that, that was the moment at which Keir Starmer suggested that he would send people back to Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran. And Sunak said, you're going to sit down and negotiate with the Taliban. It really landed a punch, didn't it?
It did. And it was a short, sharp punch. He could do it with the smallest number of words.
Yeah.
You see, Rishi should probably take this counsel, that the persuasiveness of your words depends on their quality, not their quantity.
Yes.
And he's better when he's short and he's sharp.
Why is somebody like Starmer, who is an accomplished lawyer, so flat-footed? Why was he ruffled? Why isn't he able to parry it away with a silken answer? Is it because he was so rehearsed and he was told to be risk-averse, stick to your line, because he looked uncomfortable when Sunak was on the attack, and he doesn't look prime ministerial.
He's not very clever.
When you're...
Well, I
maybe
do
that's
wonder
true of
about
all
that.
barristers, Bev, yeah.
He's a bit thick.
I do wonder about that.
Well, his preparation and his thought processes are that of a prosecuting barrister.
Yeah.
And he's done some very big, complex cases in his time. And what you do as a barrister is prepare things in writing.
That's right.
And to a certain extent, you're reading that out in court, either to a judge or to the jury. There is some spontaneity, but not very much. He hasn't really adapted all that well to the cleanliness of the courtroom, to the combat of political debate.
Very interesting, Graham.
Right.
Fascinating.
Political presentation coach, if you're not sure who Graham Davis is, that's why he talks so brilliantly about all of that.